Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, the place to come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker and welcome to episode 305, Gentle Questions for Your Growth Journey. Well, welcome back, as this month has been all about relationships, healthy ones, unhealthy ones, the ones you have with others, the ones you have with yourself. We've been talking about communication, behaviors, looking at changes that you're trying to make and ones that you want to make. So last week, we went through a bunch of questions that clients typically ask me and got a lot of great feedback that you guys thought that was really helpful. Well, today I want to do a little bit of a spin on that. So instead of focusing on answering questions you guys have or one single teaching, I want to walk you through some questions, some gentle ones, that I hope can help you get curious about yourself without raising anxiety or putting you on the spot, because that is never my intent. And we have to feel safe enough to do the work. Now, these are questions that often come up in my work with clients. They're ones that I go through in all of my courses, in all my teaching, and in past podcast episodes. They're not meant to be answered perfectly. They're just invitations. And I want you to think of them as mirrors that you can hold up for just a moment to notice maybe what's happening on the inside. And just know that whatever resonates, resonates, and whatever doesn't, and that's okay. Whatever resonates is meant to be looked at. I think if we're knee-deep in the work or getting ready to dive in deeper, I think these are natural questions that we might want to ask ourselves. Because let's face it, it takes courage to ask ourselves some hard questions. But it's when we're able to do that we're really ready to do the work or take the work deeper. So here's one around boundaries and self-trust. So I want you to think for a moment, when you said yes recently, did it feel good and aligned with who you are and what you're about? Or did it feel like you abandoned yourself just a little? And another question that goes with that, how does your body usually tell you when a boundary has been crossed? And some of you just starting the work may be really disconnected from your body, and that's part of the problem and not your fault. And so even if you said, Mary, I have no idea, it's okay. Asking yourself that question can help you start paying attention to it. For example, maybe you agreed to help a coworker after hours, and on the surface it seemed fine because you told yourself it's just one time. But later you realized you felt tense or resentful or maybe even wiped out. Well, that's your body's way of saying, hey, this didn't align with me. And it could have just been it wasn't a good day for you to help out. Doesn't have to be all or nothing. So the gentle takeaway is notice whether your yes feels free or if it carries that like sinking feeling that you just let yourself down. Now, with all these questions, this is not the time to shame or guilt yourself. It is the moment, I think, though, to take it in and sit with some compassion and honesty around it and normalize it. Remember, like I always say, grab some context. And take note that, of course, you struggle with boundaries given your background. And of course, this will be a process of getting to the point where setting them will feel more natural. That takes work, it takes practice, it takes screwing it up, and it takes time. Question 2, emotional honesty. There's 3 questions here I want you to think about. So when you shared something recently, like something heartfelt, and important to you, did you feel like your words matched what was really in your heart at the time? Or did you couch it a little differently to be more palatable? Did you leave out some parts? And which relationships feel safe enough for you to even be fully honest in? And which ones don't? And finally, when you think of your family, how comfortable were and are they with emotional honesty and vulnerability? So, for example, think about a recent conversation with someone and you might have said, "Oh, I'm fine," even though at the time you were actually very hurt or overwhelmed. That mismatch between words and feelings is very common, and it doesn't mean you're a dishonest person. It probably means some emotional safety might be missing. And we need to remember that even if we have some safer people in our lives today, we still need to practice and therefore have the experience of sharing and it being okay, if not healing in an amazing way. Like you have to have that experiential data from practicing to get used to doing it, do it more organically, and want to do it. Like I've had clients tell me that when they first attended a support group, all they could do the first couple times is just sit there and cry. And they were mortified. And I said, no, of course you're crying because you finally can. You found a safe place where no one's going to question or shame you for it, and they have the ego strength to handle it. We know when it's safe and when it's not. And when it is, we need time to learn just how to be more open. So the gentle takeaway here is noticing where you do and don't feel safe to be emotionally honest is a powerful step towards choosing healthier spaces. That doesn't mean you're going to say anything or do anything in those unsafe circumstances. I wouldn't want you to at first. That's not going to end well. A lot of times, you just want to take notice for yourself. Remember, the boundary work is detaching from whatever's going on for other people and just focusing on what is real for you. Okay, question number 3, self-care and guilt. All right, there's 2 here. So when you take time for yourself, assuming that you do, or maybe you've just started doing that, good for you, what emotions come up at first? Or have you even noticed? Is it like peace or guilt, anxiety or joy? Is it mixed emotions? What would self-care look like if you trusted that your needs mattered just as much as everyone else's? What would it look like if you trusted that your needs mattered just as much as everyone else's? And I know intellectually you're rolling your eyes and saying, of course, Mary, they do. But does that show up in your life like that? Do you live that out? So for example, picture saying no to plans because you really just needed a quiet night. So the first wave might be guilt, worrying that maybe you let someone down, you disappointed them, you didn't follow through. But if you sit with it, you might notice relief underneath. Well, that relief is a clue. Your self-care was right and necessary. So the gentle takeaway is guilt isn't proof you're selfish. It's proof you're brushing up against some old conditioning, old lies that kept you from believing that self-care is not just good, but necessary. People in your life need you to take good care of yourselves, especially if you have children. They will benefit immensely from you taking care of yourself. Number 4, relationships and belonging. So, after spending some time with someone, do you usually feel more grounded or more drained? And who in your life do you feel you can really just exhale around and just be yourself and be in the moment? And so think about the people that come to mind or a person that comes to mind. We're not judging them. We're looking at our own reality. So for example, maybe you spent an afternoon with an old friend and felt leaving kind of jittery, second-guessing yourself maybe. And compare that to being with someone who listens, laughs with you, and leaves you feeling lighter. Now, both moments tell you something important about the quality of your connections. And the gentle takeaway here is pay attention to the energy you carry home from your relationships. It's data. Now, this is very simplistic and every interaction is more complex. But on average, look at the pattern of how you feel when you walk away from a conversation with particular people and why. Just pay attention. Number 5, self-confidence and self-concept. So when you think about showing up in your daily life, how do you want others to experience you? Now, I'm not talking about putting out that codependent false self and you want everyone to like you and think you're fabulous. I'm talking about values-wise. I'm talking about more of a values-based intention. Like you want people to feel comfortable with you or to believe in you or to enjoy talking to you. And the other question that goes with this is, what's one promise you could keep to yourself this week to build trust in you, in yourself? So, for example, one client once realized she kept promising herself she'd get to bed earlier, but stayed up scrolling instead. Like none of us know what that's like, right? It wasn't about the sleep, though. It was really about trust. Because each time she didn't follow through, her self-confidence took a hit. So even keeping one small promise rebuilt the inner safety for her. So the gentle takeaway here is confidence grows when your actions match what you've said to yourself. That you want to show up to the gathering not all stressed out, so you're going to take some time to calm yourself before you get out of the car kind of thing. Or you're going to follow through on what you want to do for yourself and who you are becoming. And nothing is too tiny. Everything matters. And pay attention to the little nudges that come up for you, like, I really like to clean up that closet, or I want to make sure I return those phone calls today. They all matter. They're all very symbolic. So even something tiny and seemingly inconsequential holds symbolism. And I encourage my clients to take a look at that. Like, what does it really mean? Is it about keeping a promise? Is it also about self-discipline so that you can get things done? It can mean a lot of things. But self-concept and self-confidence is really about getting straight with ourselves. That's what it comes down to. Number 6, responsibility for others' feelings. So here's the question. When someone else is upset, do you feel like an automatic pull to fix it? To make them feel better, to offer solutions, or to get frustrated and upset yourself? Or can you just allow them to sit in their feelings? This can be really difficult to do, especially if your relationships for most of your life included boundary blurs where people felt responsible for other people's stuff. So, for example, maybe a friend was venting about work, and before you knew it, you were offering solutions, making phone calls, even rearranging your own schedule to help. And later, you realized you weren't even asked to fix it. Guess what? You just jumped in. Growth is when you pause and let them have their own emotions, and let them have their own solutions, and let them ask you for help, even if it feels uncomfortable. And it feels uncomfortable because if we have a lot of our identity wrapped up in helping other people and making things better for people, then it can be really uncomfortable to not be that person and just be the person instead that sits with them and lets them sort through all their feelings. The gentle takeaway here is connection doesn't mean rescuing. In fact, it's the opposite. It means standing beside someone in their feelings, let them have their process, and let them grow through it. Remember, when we try to fix people and fix their problems, we can shame them in the process. Because what are we messaging? You can't do it. I need to do it for you. Number 7, the fear of saying no. So when you think about saying no, what story immediately runs through your head about what might happen? What story? What just came up when I asked you that? So for example, let's say you get invited to an event and your first thought is, oh, if I say no, they're going to be mad, or they're going to think I don't care, or they might stop inviting me altogether. That's fear. And that's the old story talking. That old belief saying, I have to say yes, I have to say yes. I can't say no. It could be too scary. And usually these fears come from childhood where saying no had some real consequences. But as an adult, most people can handle it far better than we expect. And here's my thing, depending on the circumstances, outside of an emergency or leaving someone at the altar, if people can't be grown up to hear your no, and maybe have their disappointment, but not make you feel awful, then you need to find different people. And the gentle takeaway here is naming the story can really help you see if it's fear or reality. I was working with a relationship the other day and I said, so is this person right here next to you on the couch, are they giving you the vibe? Have they told you outright that it wouldn't be okay to say no? And she said, no. I said, well, unless and until they tell you that it's not okay, you don't read minds and you don't have to assume it's going to be awful. Number 8, safe versus unsafe spaces. So which spaces in your life feel like you can really exhale? And which ones make you kind of hold your breath, be antsy, have to be busy, can't sit still, feel uncomfortable, looking at the clock, can't wait to leave? So for example, think about walking into a meeting at work versus sitting down with a close friend. In one space, you might notice your shoulders are tightened a little bit. Maybe your breathing's more shallow. And in the other, you naturally just let out a sigh of relief. Well, those physical cues are telling you something really important about safety and belonging. You don't feel safe at the meeting. For whatever reasons, real or imagined, you just don't. Could be the people there, could be your expectations of yourself, your fears. Maybe you haven't let yourself connect with those people at work enough, but for whatever reason, you don't feel safe. So the gentle takeaway is keep listening to your body because it's often going to tell you the truth before your mind does, especially if it's not logical and obvious. If it's not obvious, your mind's going to say, well, there's no reason for me to be upset. And then you gaslight yourself out of feeling, well, there's no reason for me to feel uncomfortable, really. No one's hitting me or throwing things at me or yelling at me, but you don't want to gaslight yourself out of your feelings. Safety is safety. In fact, like we've talked about many times here on the show, it's the invisible stuff, the covert stuff, that's even worse because then you don't even believe that you shouldn't feel unsafe, even though someone at the meeting can be very sarcastic or snarky or shaming. Number 9, managing image versus being real. So if you stopped managing how others see you for just one day, what would shift in your energy? What would be different if you stopped managing how they see you? So for example, maybe you spend a lot of time rehearsing what you have to say. Maybe you're trying to look put together a lot of the time. Maybe you're softening your opinion so others won't react or be disappointed in you. And I just want you to imagine, what would it feel like to lay that down for just a day? Like less performing, more authenticity, appropriately. Think about it though, that energy you could free up could go towards things that matter to you instead of image management. And I would argue, with the right people, you would connect a hell of a lot better. You'd have much better relationships there. So the gentle takeaway is energy spent managing our perception can be exhausting and creates a lot of anxiety for people because you remember you have two people on the inside fighting it out. And you could live so much more fully. Just some really challenging questions. And when I work with clients around this one, I'm like, let's pick a safe person to start with and practice just a little bit at a time. Because you remember, trying to manage impressions is an emotional trauma response. So, of course, we'd have to take our time desensitizing you to the anxiety of being authentic. All right, the last one, listening to your body. So when you feel that low-grade anxiety or tension, could it be your body telling you a truth you've been trying not to see? A truth you've been trying not to see. So, for example, maybe you notice you always feel anxious before meeting a certain friend, but you just brush it off as stress and whatever. But later you realize that every interaction with this person leaves you feeling criticized or unseen, even if they're nice, quote unquote, when they're delivering it. Well, guess what? That anxiety wasn't random. It was your body waving a red flag. It's saying, you know what? This relationship just doesn't feel safe for me anymore. And I say anymore because maybe in the past it worked and it served a purpose. But a lot of times as you grow, you start noticing more and more subtle things like this. And they start bothering you. And the big question always is, well, why didn't this bother me before? Have they changed? I said, probably not. You're becoming more aware of what you need. And you can't lie to yourself anymore. And so the gentle takeaway is your body remembers what your mind was always trying to forget or brush off. Remember, if a large part of your life has been spent disconnecting from what you really think and feel and need, well, of course you're not going to be in touch with that. But as you get healthier and start doing some coaching and or some therapy around this, you start noticing what doesn't feel right. And I think deep down your beliefs start to change, that you can trust what you think and feel and need, and that you deserve to not feel criticized or unseen in any of your interactions. Because we all do. So none of these questions today are meant to overwhelm you, and you don't need to answer them all at once. Instead, I just want you to think about the ones that tugged at your heart today. Maybe sit with it, maybe play the episode back, maybe journal on it. And remember, this isn't a test. It's really just an invitation to gather data about yourself. Just like we've talked about in past episodes and inside my Find Your Voice course. Every answer, even the messy ones, I think are stepping stones towards self-trust and self-love. And that's why they're important. So be gentle with yourself this week. Maybe pick one question, one reflection, and let that be enough. The one that resonates is the one that's supposed to. Don't worry. You don't have to control the process. It will show you what to do. And that's how the work adds up, little by little, moment by moment. So today we talked about how when you begin doing deeper work on yourself, the questions start coming. Like, why do I feel guilty when I take care of myself? Why does setting boundaries suddenly feel so frustrating? Why do I feel like I can't tolerate certain people anymore? Well, these moments can feel unsettling, but they're actually signs that you're waking up to yourself in new ways. And so today I invited you into a gentle reflection process with questions designed to spark curiosity, not anxiety. And we went through some real life examples and we explored boundaries, emotional honesty, self-care, belonging and confidence, hopefully helping you notice where you are on your journey without judgment. These aren't tests, remember, they're invitations. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this was helpful. Please pass it along to anyone you think might be helped by answering some of these questions for themselves. And make sure you check out my course, Find Your Voice, in the show notes, because if you're interested in this work and you want some great support and some healthy people around you to help you do that, it's right there. Okay, so pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you can begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.